I knew something was wrong the moment the bedroom beside me stayed cold. Victor never left the bed at night unless it was an emergency call from overseas investors. The clock read 2:17 a.m., and the rain outside was steady, soft, deliberate. I reached across the sheets again just to be sure, and my fingers touched nothing but wrinkles and silence. My chest tightened, not with panic, but with recognition. Patterns don't break without a reason. I stood up slowly and slipped on my robe without turning on the lights. The house security system didn't alert, which meant he was still inside the property. I told myself I would only check the study and come back to sleep. I did not know I was walking toward the end of my marriage. Welcome back to StoryVerse Vault, my beautiful, amazing Story Vault family. You all have been so supportive, and I promise to always try my best to give you the best stories, as I learn and improve every day. If this is your first time coming across my video, do comment below where you are watching from and hit subscribe to officially join the Story Vault family. Now let's get into today's story. Lena moved through the hallway without sound, trained by years of living in a house full of staff and cameras. The motion lights remained off because she stayed within the shadow line. Victor liked automation and control, but he underestimated quiet observation. The study door was open and dark. His laptop was gone. His phone charger was gone too. That meant he planned to be away from the bedroom for more than a few minutes. She paused at the staircase landing and listened. There it was. A faint laugh carried from the back garden through the ventilation draft. Not a phone call, not television. A real laugh, female. I told myself not to jump to conclusions. Wealth attracts people, meetings, strange timing, but my body already knew before my mind agreed. Every step toward the back door felt like walking toward a verdict. The garden lights were dimmed to evening mode. He had set that himself last month for privacy ambiance. My fingers hovered near the handle. I remember thinking, if I open this door, my life will divide into before and after. I opened it anyway. From the terrace shadow, Lena saw them before they saw her. Victor stood near the stone bench under the fig tree. He was close to someone. Too close. The neighbor, Arya Cole, wore Victor's suit jacket over her nightdress. Her hand rested on his chest like it belonged there. Their posture was familiar, relaxed, practiced. This was not a first offense. This was routine. Victor bent and kissed her forehead, and she laughed into his shoulder. Lena did not step forward. She did not speak. She reached for her phone and started recording. I expected my hands to shake. They didn't. I expected tears. None came. What came instead was clarity so sharp it almost felt like relief. Mystery is heavier than truth. Truth, even ugly truth, is clean. I zoomed in and captured their faces clearly. No doubt. No denial, no escape. My marriage ended in 4K resolution. They talked between touches, unaware of the camera watching from darkness. Arya spoke about travel plans. If Victor promised her a coastline villa once things were settled, he said Lena was too dependent to fight any divorce terms. He called her comfortable, harmless, unaware. Each word placed another brick in the case, forming silently against him. Lena adjusted her angle to capture audio more clearly. Rain tapped leaves like applause for the performance. I almost laughed when he called me harmless. He forgot who reviewed his first investor contracts. He forgot whose inheritance stabilized his launch year. He forgot whose signature sits behind a maiden name trust he never bothered to read fully. People see what they pay attention to. He only paid attention to admiration, not structure, not ownership, not me. I stopped recording only after they separated and scheduled their next meeting. Lena returned inside using the side entrance. She dried her phone carefully, like handling evidence. In the kitchen, she poured water and drank it slowly. Her pulse stayed steady. Shock had passed. Strategy entered. She opened her secure cloud folder and uploaded the video with 3 backups. Then she opened a second folder labeled with her maiden name. Inside were share certificates, board voting proxies, and dormant authority letters. She reviewed them like a general checking stored weapons. I did not plan revenge. Revenge is loud and messy. I planned correction. By sunrise, nothing would look different, but the direction of power would already be turning. He thought tonight was a secret affair. He didn't realize it was a recorded confession. I went back upstairs and lay beside the empty space again. This time I slept. Morning arrived bright and polished, the kind of sunlight that makes betrayal look imaginary. Victor stood at the mirror, adjusting his cufflinks like a man with nothing to hide. Lena sat at the vanity brushing her hair, watching his reflection instead of her own. He smiled at her through the mirror with practiced warmth. He asked if she slept well. She said yes without hesitation. He said he had late calls with Singapore investors. She nodded like a supportive wife who never checks details. He leaned over and kissed her temple out of habit, not affection. She measured the distance in that kiss and logged it away like data. Lena watched him leave through the front drive security feed instead of the window. She preferred recordings to impressions. The car exited at 8:12 a.m. exactly. At 8:14, she opened her encrypted contact list. The first call went to Martin Reyes, corporate attorney and original company registrar. He answered on the second ring. Her voice was level and unhurried. She requested a confidential board readiness review and proxy activation check. He stopped speaking for 3 full seconds. Then he said he would come personally. I didn't tell him about the cheating. Evidence should never be emotionally introduced. Evidence should arrive legally armed. I asked only 3 questions. Are my founder class shares still protected under the Hale Systems trust structure? Are the dormant voting triggers still valid under spousal conflict clauses? Can emergency board session be called by proxy without CEO awareness? His answers came back yes, yes, and yes. That was enough. Martin arrived without an assistant and without a briefcase logo. He used the staff entrance as instructed. They met in the breakfast room where no smart speakers were installed. He placed printed documents on the table instead of opening a laptop. He confirmed her silent equity position was larger than Victor's executive shares. Victor controlled attention. Lena controlled weight. The difference mattered only during conflict. Conflict had now officially begun. Victor spent the morning at headquarters unaware that 3 board members had received sealed notices. The notices were procedural, neutral, and perfectly timed. They referenced governance review triggers tied to reputational exposure risk. No accusations were named yet, but urgency was implied. 2 members responded within minutes. The third asked one question. Is this coming from her? Martin replied, yes. The reply came back, then we attend. I reviewed the garden footage again, not to feel pain, but to study behavior. Body language tells negotiation truth. He leaned toward her when promising assets. He exaggerated confidence when lying. He touched his watch when uncertain. He did all 3 on camera. That meant pressure would crack him quickly. I exported still frames and timestamps. Clean, usable, controlled. By afternoon, Aria the neighbor changed her routine. She walked her dog near the shared hedge line twice instead of once. She checked her phone constantly. She wore brighter makeup for a daytime stroll. Confidence had replaced secrecy. She believed promotion was near. She did not know she had been scheduled instead. Lena stepped outside deliberately to meet her halfway. Timing was precise. I greeted her like a friend, not a rival. That confused her balance immediately. I complimented her garden roses. She complimented my dress too quickly. I invited her to our anniversary garden reception this weekend. I said Victor insisted neighbors attend. Her pupils widened at his name. She accepted before I finished the sentence. Greed makes decisions faster than desire. Invitations were sent before sunset to investors, media friends, and charity partners. The event theme read, Private Gratitude Evening. Victor texted Lena asking why he hadn't approved a guest list. She replied that his assistant confirmed it. He blamed his assistant instead of checking facts. Predictable behavior reduces planning risk. The stage, screens, someone and garden lighting were upgraded under event authorization codes. No one questioned the chairman's spouse. Authority often hides in plain sight. By night, the house felt calm again. Victor returned late and distracted, but satisfied with himself. He mentioned the weekend reception and said it would be good for brand optics. He thanked Lena for handling the small things. She told him optics were everything. He agreed without understanding the warning. They ate dinner across from each other in perfect etiquette silence. Across the table sat a husband and a strategist, not a couple. The anniversary reception week moved forward with polished precision. Lena approved layouts, camera positions, and guest flow like an event producer, not a hostess. The garden was mapped into zones of visibility and sound capture. Discrete directional microphones were integrated into floral arches. 2 projection screens were framed as decorative memory displays. Staff believed they were preparing a romantic highlight reel. Only one technician received a different instruction packet. He signed a confidentiality rider tied to chairman-level authority. He never realized whose authority that truly was. Victor increased his time away from the house as the event approached. He claimed investor dinners and strategy sessions. His driver logs showed different destinations. Aria's street camera timestamps matched those detours exactly. Correlation replaced suspicion. Proof replaced theory. Lena archived every cross-match quietly. Patterns tell stories louder than accusations. She was building a timeline that could stand in any room. I didn't feel jealous anymore. Jealousy needs emotional ownership. What I felt now was operational distance. He had moved from husband to subject, from partner to variable. When love exits, observation becomes easier. I slept better this week than I had in months. Clarity is a powerful sedative. At headquarters, tension surfaced without visible cause. Board members requested compliance summaries and exposure reports. Victor interpreted it as routine audit rhythm. The CFO knew it was not routine. Governance reviews only accelerated under threat signals. He called Martin privately for context. Martin answered with one sentence: "Protect your documentation." The CFO began duplicating records immediately. Aria prepared for the reception like it was a coronation. She ordered 3 dresses and rejected 2 for not being bold enough. She practiced introductions using Victor's last name in the mirror. She researched foundation boards and charity language. She expected transition, not exposure. Her confidence grew louder in her movements. Neighbors noticed the performance shift. No one understood the stage she was walking toward. I scheduled one more meeting before the reception, not with a lawyer, with the head of corporate security analytics. I asked for internal message retention flags on executive devices. He confirmed mirrored archives existed under litigation readiness protocols. I activated preservation status under spousal conflict clause. Victor's company messages were now locked from deletion. He still believed control sat in his password. It never did. The customized video package was assembled in layers. First layer showed public milestones of the marriage and company growth. Second layer included board performance charts tied to Lena's early capital injection. Third layer remained hidden behind a time trigger. That layer contained the garden recordings. The technician tested transitions twice. He asked if the emotional contrast was intentional. Lena answered yes. Truth works best when contrast is visible. Victor finally mentioned Aria directly, disguised as small talk. He called her the energetic neighbor. He said she might attend the reception if schedules aligned. Lena replied that the invitation was already sent. He paused half a second too long. Micro-expressions are louder than confessions. He recovered with a smile and praised Lena's social instincts. He never asked how she knew Aria well enough to invite her. I looked at him and almost told him the truth. Not about the affair, about the mistake. He believed betrayal destroys the unaware. In reality, betrayal arms the observant, but premature truth reduces impact. Timing is part of consequence. So I said nothing and let the clock keep working for me. Reception day arrived with controlled elegance and hidden intent. The garden transformed into a private gala space by late afternoon. Crystal lights were suspended across the trees like a ceiling of glass stars. Caterers rehearsed movement paths to avoid camera sightlines. Sound engineers balanced music levels with speech clarity settings. Guest check-in tablets were synced to identity logs. Nothing about the event was casual. Everything about it was measured. Lena approved final placements with the calm of a field commander. Victor dressed for the evening with visible satisfaction. He selected a deep charcoal suit reserved for major announcements. He assumed the night would reinforce his image and influence. His assistant confirmed investor attendance was unusually high. He interpreted that as loyalty. He did not recognize alignment signals shifting away from him. Power drift is silent before it is public. He practiced a gratitude speech in the mirror. I chose a simple white dress instead of something dramatic. Control does not need decoration. Understatement draws less suspicion and more focus. I wore no heavy jewelry, only my original engagement band. Symbols matter when evidence appears. My phone, my trigger device, stayed in a concealed pocket. I checked battery levels twice. Execution depends on small certainties. Guests began arriving at sunset in a steady, prestigious stream. Luxury cars lined the private drive in disciplined sequence. Investors, media partners, and foundation directors stepped into the lit garden. Soft quartet music covered the low hum of conversation. Victor moved through them like a seasoned statesman. He shook hands and received praise comfortably. Several board members watched Lena more than him. That did not register in his awareness. Arya arrived precisely 20 minutes after peak guest density. She wore the boldest dress she ordered, designed to command attention. She expected whispers and admiration. She received them, but not for the reason she assumed. 2 investors recognized her from Victor's recent travel logs. Their curiosity sharpened quietly. She walked toward Victor with proprietary familiarity. Cameras captured the body language. I watched their greeting from across the garden. Too close, too natural. He touched her elbow the way people do when history exists. They thought subtle meant invisible. It doesn't. It means recorded from a distance. I signaled the control booth with a simple glass raise. Phase timing moved forward 10 minutes. The program began with scheduled appreciation remarks. A host introduced a visual journey of the company and marriage legacy. Guests turned toward the twin projection screens. Music softened. The first video rolled with curated milestones and applause cues. Victor relaxed visibly as public praise filled the air. He believed the narrative was secured. He did not know narratives can pivot midstream. I stepped onto the stage when invited. My heartbeat was steady, not fast. Fear had expired days ago. I thanked the guests for supporting the company's early uncertain years. I mentioned seed capital that few people knew about. Several board members exchanged confirming looks. Victor turned toward me with polite confusion. He never liked unscripted details. Lena requested the next segment be played without interruption. The technician followed the alternate cue sheet. The montage shifted from celebration to documentation. Charts appeared showing original funding sources. Legal founder records displayed maiden name trust ownership. Audience murmurs replaced applause. Victor's smile weakened but held. He still believed this was only recognition. Much the documentation sequence continued longer than Victor expected. Slides showed capital injections tied to Lena's maiden trust. Dates matched the company's survival year during its cash drought. Board members leaned forward instead of clapping. Investors began recording the screens on their phones. Recognition turned into recalculation across the audience. Victor shifted in his seat and checked the control booth. No one met his eyes. Control had moved rooms. I watched his posture change before his expression did. Confidence leaves the spine first. He sat straighter but smaller. He realized the story being told was not the one he approved. Good. Truth does not require approval. Truth requires timing and light. Both were already in place. Lena thanked the board for honoring governance transparency standards. Watch that phrase triggered recognition among directors instantly. 2 of them opened the sealed notices they were instructed to bring. Inside were proxy activation confirmations. Voting rights had been conditionally rebalanced hours earlier. The legal threshold was already met. Procedure had outrun personality. Victor was the last to understand. The screen faded to black for 3 seconds. Silence spread across the garden like a held breath. Then the garden night footage appeared. Same property, same trees, same stone bench. Victor and Arya stepped into frame together. Timestamp visible. No narration added. I did not look at the screen. I looked at the crowd instead. Shock travels in waves, not explosions. First the investors, then the media guests. Then the board. Last, the guilty. Arya's hand left Victor's arm like it touched fire. He reached toward her and stopped halfway. Whispers multiplied into audible disbelief. The footage angle changed to the closer zoom. Victor promising assets. Victor mocking Lena's dependence. Victor scheduling the next secret meeting. Context removed all possible excuses. Intent was now public property. Reputation damage became measurable. I finally turned toward the screen, not to confirm it, to end it. I pressed the remote and froze the frame on his promise. I wanted that sentence preserved in silence. Confessions are strongest when paused. I let 5 seconds pass. No one spoke. Lena addressed the audience without raising her voice. She stated that governance risk clauses had been triggered. She stated that emergency proxy votes were already executed. She stated that effective immediately, the CEO position was suspended pending review. She did not say his name. Authority does not need repetition. Board members stood one by one in confirmation. The decision became physical. I felt the moment land like weight leaving my shoulders. Not victory, alignment, structure matching reality. Marriage had been broken earlier in the garden. Tonight only corrected the paperwork. I breathed once and stepped back from the microphone. The silence broke into layered noise within seconds. Questions fired from every direction at once. Investors stood and checked their phones for market reaction. The media guests began recording openly instead of discreetly. Victor rose halfway, then fully, then didn't know where to look. Authority had left him, but habit hadn't. He tried to move toward the stage. Security adjusted their positions without touching him. Barriers can be invisible and absolute. Arya attempted to exit through the side garden corridor. The access gate did not open on her first push. Event security informed her the exit was temporarily restricted for guest safety. Her confidence collapsed into urgency. 2 cameras followed her retreat automatically. Public association replaced private romance instantly. She realized she was now part of the headline. I stepped down from the stage and walked directly toward Victor. Not fast, not slow, measured. He started speaking before I arrived. He said this could be explained. He said it was manipulation. He said timing made it look worse than it was. Timing is what truth uses when lies delay too long. Victor lowered his voice and tried a different strategy. He shifted from denial to appeal. He said the board move was excessive. He said reputations could be repaired privately. He said marriages should not become corporate weapons. Lena listened without interrupting. His arguments assumed shared interests still existed. That assumption was outdated. I told him the company was not a weapon. The company was structure. Structure reacts when stress exceeds tolerance. You created the stress. I activated the structure. That is not revenge. That is governance. He had no reply prepared for precision. Board members relocated to the prepared conference tent on the property edge. Digital signatures were executed on secure tablets. Suspension orders were filed into regulatory channels immediately. The CFO joined remotely and confirmed compliance lock. Trading monitors flagged volatility, but not collapse. Investors preferred decisive correction over hidden rot. The transition stabilized faster than expected. Arya attempted one last move. She approached Lena with visible anger instead of charm. She accused her of staging humiliation. She claimed Victor promised separation months ago. She said love justified timing. Lena let her finish fully. Emotion burns out faster when given air. Then Lena asked one question. Did he show you the shareholder register? I watched realization hit her in real time. Not about the affair. About the hierarchy. She thought she was replacing a dependent spouse. She discovered she challenged a controlling owner. Romance had negotiated with the wrong side of the contract. Her anger lost direction. Victor's phone began flooding with alerts he could not stop. Executive access credentials were downgraded. Internal channels moved him to restricted visibility. His assistant stopped responding. His calendar cleared automatically. Power leaves digitally before it leaves physically. He stared at the screen like it might reverse itself. Lena returned briefly to the stage for closing protocol remarks. She thanked the guests for their professionalism during unexpected disclosure. She confirmed interim leadership continuity. She promised operational stability. Her tone never shifted upward. Crisis respects steady voices. Applause returned, cautious but real. The reception ended in controlled fragments instead of celebration. Guests departed in thoughtful silence rather than laughter. Luxury cars rolled out without music or lingering photos. Media teams uploaded from their vehicles before leaving the gate. Headlines were forming before midnight. The garden lights dimmed automatically back to residential mode. Decorations remained, but the meaning had changed. A stage that hosted applause now held consequence. Victor waited in the private lounge instead of the bedroom. He sat forward with his hands locked together. He replayed moments on his phone like a man searching for editing control over reality. Every clip showed the same outcome. Exposure, removal, replacement. He poured a drink and didn't touch it. The control addicts struggle most with irreversible events. I entered the lounge without announcement. This house no longer required emotional permission. He looked up like someone expecting negotiation. I remained standing. Distance communicates finality faster than words. He asked if this could still be handled quietly. I said it already was. Public does not mean loud. It means recorded. Victor tried one last reframing argument. He said personal failure should not equal professional exile. He said founders deserve forgiveness margins. He said legacy should outweigh scandal. Lena answered with governance language, not marital language. Executives are measured by risk they introduce. You introduced verified risk. The system responded correctly. I told him the divorce filing would be submitted at 9 a.m. and asset separation schedules were already drafted. His lawyers would receive them simultaneously with regulators. I explained the process like weather, not threat. He asked if there was anything left to save. I answered truthfully. The company, legal couriers moved before sunrise across the city, digital filings queued in court systems. Regulatory disclosures updated leadership records. Press outlets confirmed the governance transition. Market response open volatile but upward by midday. Confidence prefers decisive correction. The narrative shifted from scandal to restructuring. Arya woke to messages instead of admiration. Interview requests replaced invitations. Commentary labeled her a factor, not a partner. Association turned from advantage to liability overnight. Her lawyer advised silence immediately. Now the silence arrived too late to prevent identification. Digital memory does not negotiate. I moved into the executive office without ceremony. No portrait changed on the wall. No speech was given inside the building. Continuity reduces panic. I met department heads one by one. I asked for risk lists, not loyalty statements. Competence stabilizes faster than emotion. They understood the tone immediately. The board confirmed Lena as interim chair by unanimous digital vote. Not symbolic, binding, operational authority transferred fully, signature keys updated across systems, decision trees now routed through her desk. Responsibility is heavier than revenge fantasies suggest. She accepted it without celebration. By evening, the mansion felt empty yet purposeful. Staff moved quietly. Now knowing power had shifted, but unsure how to act beyond protocol. Security monitored exits, cameras, and communication channels with renewed precision. The garden, once a stage of betrayal, now stood untouched and serene. Rain had started softly as if marking closure. I walked through it slowly, letting the water remind me of distance, not pain. Victor remained upstairs, alone with the consequences he could no longer deny. Araya's messages went unanswered. Control, once intangible, had now become absolute. I sat at my private study reviewing the day's footage one last time. Not to relive betrayal, not to savor victory, to archive clarity. Each frame reinforced timing, planning, and execution. Every sequence aligned with legal thresholds. Every motion confirmed accountability. My pulse was steady. My mind was calm. And the story had concluded in reality and record simultaneously. Victor eventually appeared in the office, a shadow of former composure. He asked if the board transition was permanent. I answered honestly, yes, until review completes and risks are assessed. He tried to speak of personal entanglements. I reminded him that corporate governance does not accommodate emotion. He paused as if realizing structure outweighs influence. The room held his silence like a heavy curtain. No apology, no negotiation, only recognition of fact. Morning brought legal confirmation. The court received filings. Digital signatures verified the divorce and asset separation schedules. Lawyers emailed acknowledgments simultaneously. Victor read each message, understanding speed is now finality. His assistants could do nothing to intervene. The company continued operating without interruption. Operational stability contrasted sharply with personal collapse. Arya attempted a final outreach by email. She offered explanation, appeal, and threat in equal measure. I opened it once, read through, and archived. No response was necessary. Digital memory now replaced private influence. Her ambition collided with structure, not discretion. Her access ended before it began. Victor attempted private calls. None were answered. Messages were blocked or filtered through legal channels. No one from his inner circle intervened. Isolation arrived in practical, procedural form. He understood the consequences were not negotiated, only applied. The system operates when people fail. I walked through the mansion one last time before nightfall. Each room carried memory, but not dominance. Each object, arrangement, and path reflected continuity rather than obsession. Control is preserved in quiet routines, not drama. Victor's presence remained, but influence had vanished. Silence spoke louder than confrontation. The house returned to order under observation and authority. Investors and board members sent messages of acknowledgement. They praised decisiveness and clarity. No emotional tribute, only operational approval. The company stabilized faster than anyone expected. Public opinion began to frame the story as effective leadership, not scandal. Structure prevailed. Lena's authority became quietly unassailable. I finally returned to the master bedroom. It felt empty, yes, but empty in a controlled way. No betrayal lingered. No uncertainty remained. The bed was untouched, the sheets smooth. I lay down once, breathing slowly. This time peace arrived with planning, precision, and ownership. The past belonged to observation, the present belonged to strategy, and the future belonged entirely to me. If you loved watching Lena's journey from betrayal to control, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Like this story to show support. Comment below what you would have done in her place. Share this video with friends who love tense, cinematic drama. Stay tuned for more stories from StoryVerse Vault, where every story leaves an impact.